For this helmet, there's just going to be a couple different things that we're going to need just to get started. First things first, sandpaper. The difference between dry sandpaper and wet. Now we're going to need a palm sander to knock all those layer lines down. And if you cut the file, soldering iron will definitely help. We have primer, Bondo, and spot putty. This is going to be to cover up all those small LED eyes and two-sided tape. But before we get into that, let's rewind back to the beginning on how I printed this. Now this is one orientation that you can print this mask in if you're looking to just go off on a one shot. There are different settings that you can change as far as your support settings, so that way this comes off the face a little bit easier. I am 3D printing with the CR10S, so at 13% infill. We do have a raft set on, so that's obviously going to increase some time. And yes, I could have used a support blocker to take off some of the stuff at the head and from the cheek, but in this orientation you mainly want to focus on the main part of the face plate. That way there's some support there. That you're looking at about 2 days. Like I said, cutting off if you're not going to be using a raft, or if you use some support blockers, I'd probably say like a day and a couple hours. But if you're using a CR10S, this is at 100% file size. CR10S, if you have something around that build size or bigger, you'll definitely be able to print up this piece and the next two in one shot. If you're new to the channel, this slicer is called Slicer, SLIC3R. And this is basically where I bring a file in to make a cut on a model. So I cut it right here by the eyes, and the reason that I did that is because it's not going to take away from any of the detail. Cutting here through this like mask hole would have probably made it a little bit more difficult, but I just like to cut somewhere where visually it's not going to destroy the whole print. For the back of the helmet, it's pretty straightforward. I just sat it like this. I just felt like this was the better orientation. I put like a little bit of supports going up along, so I did custom supports actually, and basically I just came to the bottom and then added them along this ridge here. That's basically the only edit that I made to it. You can also sink this into the build plate a little bit more if you wanted to, just to make sure that it sticks a little better. That's something that I do as well. But as for this helmet, this is basically how I printed. Just put these bars on both sides and then a support blocker on the top so that it didn't print out in everything. Now to knock down these layer lines, we're going to need a couple of things. First things first, we're going to need the snips. These come with the printer, a sanding block or a palm sander, and then sandpaper itself. For this stage, at least here, we're going to start off with the 60 to 80 grit, but before that we're just going to use these snips just to cut off some more of the supports. Get done tightening up the top, I'm going to show you guys how to take care of this under extrusion that happened here on the face plate. So this is going to be more of the Bondo and spot putty. So I just went ahead and did some sanding with the 80 grit by hand, and you can already see some of the difference coming through, how much smoother this side looks compared to this half. So this is just to show you that even though I just have started using a palm sander, that some of these results that I have from my videos I did do by hand as well, so the same thing is applied. The palm sander is just a lot quicker and a lot less hand cramps. Okay, so I just finished the first pass of sanding, and basically with the first pass, you're not looking for perfection, you just want to get the print tacky enough, so that way all the primer sits on there nice and easily. So what I'll do from here is start to use the Bondo and start to fill in these under extrusions, sand those down a little bit better, and then I'll start to add my layers of primer. This is what I use here. It's a two-part, so you get the Bondo itself, and then inside the cap you'll get the hardener. Make sure, as I mentioned in other videos, that you do get the hardener, because if you just put the Bondo itself onto the print, you're just going to have a clay mess of nonsense. So what I'll do is I'll just mix up the two-part, covering some of these holes, and then get ready to sand that down a little. Bondo does have a fume to it, so I would recommend doing this outside and put some gloves on. Now, as you can see with that first layer of Bondo on, all of those under extrusions are pretty much tied in. Now, this does not mean that that's the end of it. I wish it did, but after I add my primer and start to sand, you'll start to see more of those smaller gaps, so that's where the spot putty will come in. For the bigger things, I use Bondo because it just fills in those bigger gaps a lot easier. And then as I start to sand down and prime and I start to see little speckles come up, that's where the spot putty definitely comes in and does a much better job on covering those in. Like I said, this is all just like the first layer of everything, the first go of everything, so it's just to give myself a basic idea and at least get started. Okay, so this is how the helmet is looking after the first layer of primer going down. And although I did cover up a lot of the big spots, at this stage you'll start to see more of the little things start to pop out. So what I'll have to go over additionally, whether it be with Bondo again or spot putty. Again, the big thing here is just really taking your time. What you don't want to do is take a big gloop of Bondo or wood filler or whatever you're using to patch and just kind of smear it on there and just like kind of poorly sand it, because that's going to show through the paint. So what I like to do is just go one layer at a time, add one layer of primer, see what shows, Bondo, spot putty, sand, wet and dry sand. Basically what you want to do for yourself is just set a standard. How far do you want to go and what look do you want? Okay, so transitioning from here, this is where I'm going to start to use more of the wet and dry sandpaper since these little dents are getting a lot smaller. So this is where I'm going to start to use the spot putty and just sand that down. One good thing to have in this case is an X-Acto knife. As you can see by this lip, there was some Bondo that got in there. So with this, I'm just going to be able to pluck that out. And a little secret tip, you're going to see more of this in my next video. This is going to be on the Blades of Chaos. So what this is basically liquid painter's tape. So what I can do is put some of that in these lines, and what it'll do is it'll harden so I can paint over it, and then I'll be able to peel it out from there. So we'll see a little bit more of that in my next video. So if you stay tuned, that's one of my little secret tips there. But besides that, it's just going to be more of the wet sanding and spot putty. All right, so we're looking good. We're looking good. This is about 3 layers. As you can see, the first coat I did pretty lightly, and then I just built up from there. But as far as the lines that we had on the top, everything is gone. The under extrusion that we had on the side of the face is gone as well. And the front and the cheek is looking a lot better. Just a lot of repetition, just getting it to a good standard, and just making sure that in the primer stage that you see no cracks, no dents, anything like that in that stage, because anything from there is definitely going to show in the paint. Alright, so I've been getting asked a lot more frequently, what's going on with the inside? What are you doing to the inside? Is there anything that you add to the inside? So here's a little bit that we got going on for this helmet. So as you can see, I laced all the magnets along the edges on both the helmet and on the back piece. I use E600. There are other different super glues that you can use. There's hot glue guns that you can use there. As you notice, so that E600 dries pretty quickly. Then just waiting for that to settle in now, just to actually test the fitting of the magnets, make sure that those snap in place. But besides that, we got the LED eyes, and with those, basically what I did was add a 2-sided tape and just ran it along the loop of the eye, so the oval of the eye, on the top and the bottom, but I just pasted the LED eye on top of that. just to make sure that that sticks in there pretty good. With the LED eyes, the main thing that you want to focus on with those is just making sure that the textured side is facing out. And another big thing, because I did this when I first got the eyes, they come with like a little clear film on top of it. And as you can see on the inside of the corners, those little tabs right there, you want to keep, so you want to cut around those. I ripped those off, and basically what happens is the light's exposed, so you're pretty much blinding yourself because the light's flashing right into your eyes. And then same thing, I just have some two-sided tape behind the actual on and off switch just to secure that as well. Okay, so if you've been here with me for this journey, I think hands down we can all say that this is probably one of the best helmets that I've made, for sure. I finished everything. I love the way everything came out. The magnets snapping perfectly to the helmet. As you can see, you got the LED eyes in there, nicely mounted. The paint came out perfectly. The only thing that I can say that I could add, which I did buy, was like a clear coat. So I could have clear coated this, but I think as far as like what the TV series shows and how this came out, I really like the way that this came out. I hope you guys learned a lot in this video. Again, how to knock down layer lines, and just a new process, just something to add into what you already do. Maybe just a step here or two, or maybe even just a little bit of patience that you can have in your finish to get something looking really good. But as you guys know me, the job is never done, and something new is always up and coming. So stay tuned for this helmet. This is actually Batman's Arkham Knight helmet. I can't wait to get this done. This Batman Beyond helmet, oh my goodness, I remember the TV show back in the day, waking up early and watching that on a Saturday morning. So having this one, I couldn't wait to get to it. So stay tuned for this one, guys. I'm going to get some ready LED eyes for it. I'm going to paint it a matte black. Stay tuned. You're not going to want to miss this one. In the meantime, check out these two videos here, or there, or there, for more of my builds. Besides that, it's BZ Comics. Peace.